The football team would take the field behind Eric LeGrand's lead, and the men's soccer team looked to take the top spot in the Big East Red Division. All that and more is coming up on Sports Night.
Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us for this week's episode of Sports Night. I'm John Ghilino, and next to you is my analyst T.J. Fiorillo. On this episode, we will have highlights from the football team's big matchup against conference foe West Virginia and the men's soccer team's showdown against South Florida.
We will also have scores from the other teams in action this weekend, and Kim Cordovez will give a quick recap of what happened at MidKnight Madness. But before we get into all those highlights, though, we'd like to remind you that you can watch this or any episode on demand at rutv.rutgers.edu. If you have any input for the show, you can email rutv_sportsnight at email.rutgers.edu.
The football team went to their contest against the Mountaineers, having lost their last 16 matchups against West Virginia in the all-time series.
The Scarlet Knights were back in black under the snowy skies as they took the field behind former teammate Eric LeGrand to take on 25th ranked West Virginia. It was West Virginia who had the big play magic early on as they started off this wacky first quarter with Sean Austin's 52-yard touchdown rush that countered Santante's early 40-yard field goal. The Mountaineers take the lead 7-3. On West Virginia's next drive, the weather would come into play. Good pressure up the middle by Scott Ballone would force Geno Smith to panic with the ball, and it slips out of his hand and it's recovered by Manny Abreu to give Rutgers the ball on West Virginia's 11-yard line. On 3rd and 13, Nova would go over the middle to Sanu, who shakes off a tackler and rumbles into the end zone for the touchdown that gives Rutgers the 10-7 lead. But here come the Mountaineers again. The first play from scrimmage on their next drive, and they go with a little misdirection toss to Tavon Austin, who goes 80 yards untouched for the long touchdown run to put West Virginia back on top. Rutgers would strike back on their next drive as Nova drops back and delivers a 45-yard cannon to Mark Harrison to put the Knights back into the lead. On Rutgers' first second quarter drive, a fumbled snap would give the ball right back to West Virginia on the Rutgers 7-yard line, and Austin would waltz into the end zone again from 2 yards out on second down. On the ensuing drive, Coach Schiano took a risk to go for it on 4th and 10 from the Mountaineer 30, and the gamble pays off as Pat Miller interferes with Rutgers receiver Karan Pratt to give Rutgers a fresh set of downs, and they would capitalize by punching in with this Jawan Jamison touchdown from the 1-yard line. Jamison would again be added after a 3-and-out. He would rush for 18 yards on his way to his second touchdown in as many drives to put Rutgers up by a score of 31-21. Second half would roll around and West Virginia would again strike with a touchdown first as Geno Smith hooks up with Stedman Bailey for a 19-yard touchdown pass. Rutgers' next drive, though, would be a turning point as Gary Nova's pass would find the hands of Broderick Jenkins. That would help set up 13 unanswered points in the fourth quarter for West Virginia in the fourth as they come back to claim the conference matchup by a score of 41-31. Rutgers falls back to 500 with a 2-2 mark in Big East play, and this is the third loss from the season for the Knights. Gary Nova was inaccurate but threw for 235 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jamison was good in the game for Rutgers as he picked up almost 100 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns as well. Mohamed Sanu continued to impress with 5 catches that went for 48 yards and a touchdown.
Looking back on it, this was an emotional rollercoaster ride for Rutgers as they jumped out to a 10-point first-half lead before the offense stalled and weren't able to produce anything in the second half. What were your thoughts on Gary Nova's performance?
Nova was not good in the game and only made a handful of really good throws in 46 attempts. He completed just a hair over 39% of his throws, and that was part of the reason behind 4 turnovers. This team needs to concern itself more on ball security, especially when you have a rookie quarterback making rookie mistakes.
There was a period in the first half where Nova was really struggling, and there was some speculation about whether Coach Schiano would give Chase Dodd a chance in the inclement weather conditions. Why do you think he didn't go with him?
I'm not sure, really. In Nova's defense, the team did put up 31 points in the first half, but it's not enough given the fact the offense was so ineffective in the second. Forcing throws result in interceptions, making bad reads. All of these are part of the equation. I don't think we've seen the last of Chase Dodd yet.
That could be the case because as a starter now, Nova has thrown 6 touchdowns but has also given up 5 interceptions and has also fumbled a few times. Can't be turning the ball over more than you're producing points if you're on a contending team. Do you think the play calling affected him at all this week?
Yeah, I think that it did, and here's why. The team had an established running game in the first half, which is a big reason why they were able to build that 10-point halftime lead. Look at the breakdown. The team ran over 50 passing plays while just rushing the ball 39 times. It's really not putting your freshman quarterback in a position to effectively manage the game, especially when you have a good run game going.
The team did move the ball well, and Jawan Jamison had a big game approaching the century mark with 96 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. But let's switch focus to the Rutgers defense, who put forth an uncharacteristic performance.
Yeah, the defense came out in the game with the 9th best point-per-game numbers in the nation, but got torched for 41 points against the first really strong offense they've seen since Ohio and North Carolina. They're susceptible to the big play. We've seen it all year long, and that's because of losing containment around the edge. You'll see here on Tavin Austin's 80-yard run that Jamil Merrill loses his containment on the defensive end, and that opens up a big hole. But it's not just Merrill, and it's not just the defensive ends. This defense is sound, but it has the tendency to get beaten for big yards in key times.
They will have another opportunity to fix some of the holes we've seen in the past 2 weeks. Will it be Nova or Dodd under center? Can the defense clean up its spotty play? We will see it this Saturday at home against USF. The game will start at 7 p.m. and will be streaming live on ESPN3.com.
Well, another team looking to secure their place among the top teams in the Big East was the men's soccer team, who welcomed number 5 USF for a game that would decide first place in the red division of the Big East. With a win, the Knights could take hold of the division. A loss or tie would still earn them a first-round bye in league playoffs. Let's go out for the highlights.
The men's soccer team took on the 5th-ranked South Florida Bulls on Monday at a neutral site, and the game was a defensive struggle. Goalkeeper Kevin McMullen stayed hot, keeping USF off of the score sheet, making 4 saves. Rutgers was led by Ibrahim Kamara with 3 shots, but only one of them found the keeper as USF's Chris Playas had to make only 1 save in the game. Rutgers clinches the 2 seed in the red division, which earns them a bye to the quarterfinals for the conference playoffs.
So the snow pushed this game back until Monday, and the game was played on the campus of NJIT because Yersack Field was still recovering from the storm's effects. But a solid point against the 5th-ranked team in the nation for Rutgers. What did the Knights do particularly well to earn them the tie?
The Knights played really solid defensively and were able to limit the Bulls' chances in a game that really didn't generate many scoring chances at all. The Knights were able to take the strain off of Kevin McMullen, who made 4 saves in the game, and played this one to a stalemate for 110 minutes of play.
They will need to continue that play in the playoffs as the team was able to secure that 2nd seed in the red division with the tie to USF. They will next await the winner of DePaul, Connecticut matchup. The winner of that game will then take on Rutgers at Yersack Field. What have the Knights done against those 2 opponents so far this year?
Well, so far in the season, the Knights took down DePaul by a score of 1-0 in a match that took place on October 15th. So that's a pretty healthy sample of what to expect if DePaul upsets UConn. As for Connecticut, the Knights have not played them all year, but the Knights are 5-0-2 in their last 7 games and have not lost since October 4th. So they're rolling and they're ready to take on whoever is thrown their way in the playoffs.
So their next contest is slated to take place on November 5th. Barring any weather circumstances that might have the effect on field conditions. So stay tuned to ScarletKnights.com to find out who the men's soccer team will take on in the quarterfinals of the conference championships.
This is an exciting time for Rutgers soccer. A win and 2 draws against 3 top 15 programs in the past 3 weeks have this team primed for a run in the conference playoffs.
We're going to be taking a short commercial break, but stay tuned because after the break we'll have our Night Report segment, and also we will hear from Kimberly Cordovez with a recap from MidKnight Madness event that the men's basketball team hosted over homecoming weekend.
I'm T.J. Fiorillo, my co-host is John Ghilino, and you're watching Sports Night on RUTV.
Before there was a United States, a college was founded in the heart of New Jersey.
Before I became a CEO in the global marketplace.
Before I earned my Super Bowl ring.
Before
I was hired as the apprentice.
Before I wow my audiences on stage.
Before I won the Pulitzer Prize.
I learned about the world.
I earned my degree.
I was a Rhodes Scholar.
I studied writing.
I motivate my students.
At Rutgers.
At Rutgers.
At Rutgers.
Jersey Roots, Global Reach.
November 8th, 2011 is Election Day. Will you be ready? Get tuned into politics with RUTV's Political Programming Week. Starting the 1st of November, don't miss the chance to see 2 politically themed movies as well as At the Podium on Channel 8.
Before there was a United States, a college was founded in the heart of New Jersey. Before there were bowl games, the first college football game was played at Rutgers. Before there were cures for tuberculosis, Rutgers scientists discovered the breakthrough antibiotic. Before the Supreme Court's landmark ruling, a Rutgers alumna helped make the case for desegregation. Before the world changes again, Rutgers will be working on it. Rutgers, Jersey roots, global reach.
Welcome back. You're watching Sports Night on RUTV.
With the point they pulled out in last year's regular season finale against Seton Hall University, the women's soccer team earned their way into the Big East Championships. Waiting for them in the first round was Providence College. The women's soccer, field hockey, and volleyball teams will be featured in this week's edition of Night Report.
The women's soccer team saw their season come to a close as they were upended by Providence, who plays in the Big East American Division, by a score of 1-0. Emmy Simpkins made 3 saves in the game, but was beaten in the 56th minute when Taylor Bartini shot a ball low past her outreached hands. Rutgers caps the year with a record of 8-8-3 and was led this season by Janelle Foligno with 13 points. Foligno played in just 7 games before sustaining a season-ending injury. The field hockey team also finished out their schedule by taking on 3rd-ranked Maryland on Senior Day at the Bauer Track and Field Complex. Rutgers was blanked 5-0 to finish out the year, but received 7 total saves from their keepers Sarah Stubbe and Vicky Lavelle. Sophomore Gianappi led the team in scoring on the season with 17 points. The women's volleyball team had their rally cut short by Georgetown on Sunday. After dropping the first 2 sets, Rutgers came right back and tied the match up before losing in the deciding set by a score of 15-13. Sophie Kokus and Alex Jones led the scoring, combining for 22 kills. They will remain on the road next weekend to take on DePaul and Notre Dame before returning home for their final weekend at home.
Despite a record under 500 last season, the men's basketball team showed flashes of brilliance under the guidance of first-year head coach Mike Rice. With 7 freshmen on the roster this season, the Knights hope that the new talent will supplant the loss of their senior core from a year ago.
The team held their annual MidKnight Madness event this season to showcase some of the talent that will be on display all winter long. Kimberly Cordovez was on scene for the event, and we're going to send it out to the College Avenue gym for all the recap.
NBA lockout killing you too? Well, don't worry, I got something to hold us all down. Right here tonight at MidKnight Madness, the Rutgers men's basketball team will kick off their season. Take a look.
MidKnight Madness is the official start to hoop the season every year here at Rutgers University. On Friday, October 14th, fans got to come out and support the men's basketball team as they kicked off the season in typical Scarlet Knight fashion. Familiar faces included upperclassmen such as Mike Poole, Tyree Graham, Mike Kunn, Dane Miller, Wally Judge, Austin Johnson, and of course, Gavildes Baruda. Coach Mike Rice presented the freshman class, which consisted of Jerome Seegears, Gregory Lewis, Eli Carter, Miles Mack, Derek Randall, Jack Kadeen, and Malik Cohn. And to spice things up, there was even a slam dunk contest where 4 of the many players were able to give the audience a taste of their skills. However, the competition was shortly narrowed down to Jerome Seegears and Wally Judge by popular demand. Hyping the crowd up with nearly a perfect dunk, Seegears was able to take the victory home with him that night.
Though we might be missing out on another chance for Kobe to snatch a ring this season, we can surely count on our Scarlet Knights. Hope you're ready for the sky-high dunks, the alley-oops, and of course, plenty of wins. For more information on the Rutgers basketball team, visit scarletknights.com. For RUTV, I'm Kimberly Cordovez.
That's all the time we have left for today, but we'd like to remind you to be sure to tune in next week for another dose of Rutgers athletics. Sports Night airs every Wednesday at 10 p.m. on RUTV channels 8, 18, and 60. Check us out on Facebook. You can search RUTV Network and also follow us on Twitter at Rutgers TV.
Next week, we will have highlights of the football team's matchup against USF and also a recap of the Scarlet Black Wrestle-Offs that will kick off the wrestling season. For Sports Night, I'm T.J. Fiorillo. My co-host was John Ghilino. Thank you for watching Sports Night on RUTV.